welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com Broiler Chicken Show. Trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello everyone, welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Broiler Chicken Show, our Sunday offering, I guess I should say. Weekend show. Started a little bit late here today. Sorry, everybody. I really do like punctuality and reliability and dependability and all that kind of stuff. And actually, I was just sitting here just jabber-mouthing about the absolute, I suppose I could head off and use a whole bunch of swear words, but that doesn't really do any good, especially with YouTube algorithms and all that kind of stuff, monetizations and stuff. But I was, through the weekend, I was, of course, having fun watching all these social media pieces and stuff. And this one gentleman was interviewing, interesting. I don't know where that, here it is. He was interviewing a mortgage broker in my country. And the mortgage broker himself is saying, the social media guy is small channel. And I even went on and I said, I'd be more than happy. I mean, anybody who's a TRIer, you know what the answer to this is. What's the cure for high prices? I mean, you all know the answer to this. And it's the one thing that all of these baby boomers and everybody who's bought into this absolute stupidity of the Canadian real estate industry that is like their worst nightmare. It's really, the market should probably fall by like 50%. But anyway, what I did find really interesting about this interview was this was an actual mortgage broker. Do yourself a favor if you have some time in the after you've watched the Broiler Chicken Show, go listen to this guy, especially if you're in Canada, right? His recommendation at the end of the video, the poor young guy, and it's so funny because the guy who's doing the video, he goes, well, I'm an old timer in the Canadian real estate market. I've been in here since 2011. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You haven't even seen what a bear market in Canada even looks like. And that's what really scares me is, like I said, we started the video late and I was ranting on with a couple of guys that are in the Zoom call here with me. Oh boy. This country is just heading for an absolute disaster. You can see it coming 100 miles away. And the worst part about it is that these silly real estate developers and this government, I mean, the guy who's in charge of my country, he has no economic experience. The finance minister of my country, she has no finance experience. Hell, I think she worked in the State Department or something as a career bureaucrat. And, you remember, she rose to fame because she had to deal with Donald Trump shitting on her head there like 6 years ago. But that's the extent of her experience as like somebody who's actually in a managerial position, not. And yet she's the deputy prime minister and the finance minister of this country. It's absolute insanity. So anyway, my country's heading, towards a cliff. 100 miles an hour, and the people that are in charge of the government, they don't seem to have a clue about what's happening. This guy here, he actually runs a mortgage business. And when the gentleman asked him, what's your advice? His advice was, get the hell out of this country while you still can. And for God's sakes, don't buy. You're an idiot if you're buying this. So, the old adage is, what's the cure for high prices? Like DMAC pointed out there on YouTube. The cure for high prices is high prices. But everybody who bought up top, oh boy. And of course, we all know what 2008 looked like down in the States. And I wouldn't be surprised if 2028 is exactly the same scenario in China here. So anyway, that's your start for the video. My apologies. Explain why I was late. The problem here, and actually we put out a newsletter, and you're more than welcome to get this newsletter in your email. And also too, it has the links to the Broiler Chicken Show. I have to say, this newsletter I think is spot on. But we were sitting there for probably about a half hour, 45 minutes, saying, what is it we're going to actually talk about this week with these good people? Because frankly speaking, the econs that have come out this past week, what they're doing is they're just painting a picture that the consumer is dying 1,000 deaths here. And you might argue, things like the crypto venture part of the market is an excellent proxy on sort of the junior part of our economy. I mean, when was the last time you heard Barstool guys? Remember that Barstool guy? I can't even remember what his name was. And now all of a sudden, through that silly sickness, stupidity economy, he all of a sudden became like a stock trading expert. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he got absolutely destroyed. So you don't hear about them being, incredible stock pickers anymore. But they're a pretty good proxy on sort of Joe Sixpack, the public. I don't see them participating in these markets at all anymore. And I hate to say it, but just even around the TRI site, we are a consumer-based business, and we have our hardcore crew, and I love that about TRI. We spend a lot of time educating people how to actually become responsible professional traders who are running a small business with the expectation of actually making money from trading. But when you're in an environment where really there's not a hell of a lot to do, you're just supposed to sit there on your hands. There's not a hell of a lot for us to do. We're just sitting there on our hands. If anything, this is a great opportunity to sharpen up your skill set and things like day trading, futures contracts. And it doesn't actually surprise me that the guys at Top Step are doing pretty well these days. They're having a lot of fun. And guys like Chris, just slowly working away. I don't know whether they can hear you on this feed today, Chris, but are you still taking your opening range trades in the futures markets Monday to
I
Friday?
am. Yep. Monday through Friday,
Okay.
taking them.
So that's the whole point of this is that what do professional traders do while you're waiting for the economy to actually turn back up and things like, junior stocks go, and junior cryptos for that matter, go like 10x and stuff. And you're talking Lambos and all that kind of fun talk. Well, a lot of times we sit and play in the day trade, swing trade environment. Actually, one thing I'm super pleased about, it's taken forever for us to get here, but it's good to see, the train is moving forward. TRI, we got our stock screener engine back online. Way to go, Stuart. CTO and all that kind of fun talk. And it is interesting to see a bunch of names that I could see as trades coming up. So we'll probably be talking a lot more about that kind of stuff going forward on the site. I'm just trying to see where I can show you this. Actually, yeah, here we have it over here. So for instance, I'm able to get trade location with indicator confirmation and price structure screens all in one now. Yay! Woohoo! I mean, this is a huge leap forward for TRI. So interesting too to see Warren Buffett this past week mentioned the fact that Occidental Petroleum was a huge new purchase for him. Lots and lots of write-ups about how he really likes the stock. And what a surprise. We spent actually quite a bit of time. I think it was Wednesday's daily brief, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been Friday. But anyway, going through the signals and how site members can use the signals that come up. And actually, really interesting to see that not only are we getting names from various different countries, Euro names, US names, but we have crypto names in the mix. Interesting to see REP coming up here, denominated in euros as a setup here. So Anyway, going to have lots of conversations with site members about sort of trade setups and how we would use these signals going forward. So that'll probably keep us busy while we're waiting for the broader market to stabilize and then start to sort of trend higher in earnest. And one thing that I am seeing that's very, very interesting to me is, and actually this would be a good opportunity. Well, thank you, Meta. I appreciate it. This would be a good opportunity for you YouTubers to participate here. So if the public is not interested and the public is dying 1,000 deaths and they're being distracted, and let's call a spade a spade. There's no sense in poo-pooing this. We can clearly see in the data, and I did see a number of different news articles. In fact, I was reading one done by the Fox people, which I think gives us a pretty good sort of look into how the public is feeling. Wall Street success doesn't mean average Americans are thriving in Biden's economy. And this was an interview with a serial entrepreneur. That's kind of an interesting name. Lots and lots of talk here that, basically this economy is breaking the back of the middle Americans. So the public is negative. What's fascinating, of course, is are they even the slightest bit interested in the market right now? And sadly, this is a great headline right here. Hey, are you excited about the NASDAQ hit an all-time high? And their probably answer is, what's the NASDAQ? And of course, when the public is interested in the NASDAQ and when they are saying, well, you got to be invested and that's the only thing you can do as an economy, is that the time when we want to be investing? Or do we actually want to be getting seriously interested in the market? And now I know the asset that I wanted to put in here, Chris. It totally slipped my mind. But actually, this isn't a bad anecdote because this is very similar. But what should we be doing as smart money? Oh, yeah, I didn't even see that. And actually, this is a good part about, oh, still refresh. Oh, is it coming? It's coming. It's coming. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. You can do it. Oh, there we go. Shout out. This is a really good anecdote that does it not make sense that if we are, well, I've got 20 different thoughts going on here. So let's try and back up a moment. If the public is not interested in the market and they're sanguine and they're very upset, should we be sanguine? Should we be upset? Should we be selling? Or should we be doing the exact opposite? What do institutions do when the public is bearish and negative? What do institutional players do? Remember, I made that comment about Barstool guys. Excellent, Nore. Good line. Perfect. Getting interested. Yeah, nice, Adam. And that makes sense. Adam's a fucking boss. We should be buying when the public is crying and getting interested. Yeah. So, this is a fun one that, of course, I bought this past week. And unfortunately, Bird Eye is having a hard time showing the little bubbles. So I had to airbrush in the bubble. And that's why we didn't give you actually a very good chart. Full disclosure, I'm not going to lie to you. But at the same time, too, I did buy this and I can show you the fill and I see the coins in my account. So I did buy it. I'm not quite sure why Bird Eye is doing this, but anyway, that's why I had to use this chart. But it's a pretty good example where, I happened to actually bought when this thing was working its way up. Maybe that wasn't the best trade idea, but it did work out. I sold half, on a double, took profits, whatever. Then the thing absolutely collapses and then it goes in, puts in bullish momentum divergences, puts in W's. And I'm just a man, one good thing about what I do is I don't really care whether you buy or sell what I buy or sell. I don't care. I'm not even really here to make money off of any of you. The prices that we charge for these courses and the site membership, they're laughable. We're not getting rich off of site membership. In fact, full disclosure, I haven't really made any money at the TRI website this past year. And that's not the purpose of the TRI website. The whole purpose of that whole endeavor was to make a positive difference in this world, do exactly what Spirit asked me to do 10 years ago. So I don't care whether you buy this or not. It doesn't make any difference to me. But as a result, because I'm like full disclosure, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing. I don't have any vested interest in whether you do it or not. But at the same time, too, this is going to be a really fun anecdote where you can literally see, although I don't know whether I can zoom in anymore. Oh, here we go. Now, how do I get over on the other side of the page? Here we are. Oh, it's so blurry, though. Yeah, terrible. Anyway, you can see where I sold. There's a little red dot. Hopefully Bird Eye gets its act together again and it puts on the little green dots again. But that's where I bought. This is everything that I'm trying to teach you guys. I would not be surprised that, I will be putting out another note here and showing a little red dot, selling halves on doubles, establishing risk-free trades. I mean, you can see 50% of this range. This isn't rocket science. It's actually incredibly simple. And, the irony of it all is that the public is not even the slightest bit interested in this. So if anything, this is exactly when us as smart money, I'm teaching you how to behave in the marketplace like institutional players. I mean, that's the whole point of this exercise. You should all be starting to pay attention. Whether you buy this or not, I don't care. It makes no difference to me. But, might as well at least tell you what I'm doing. And, another market, which I think is even more significant, which is probably the market that I should have put in here, but this is the one that came to mind. You want to see an asset that I think is an absolute steal. And again, I don't care whether you buy or sell this. I don't care. I have no vested interest one way or the other. I don't care. Have I mentioned a couple times here? I have no vested interest in whether you buy or sell this, and I don't care whether you buy or sell it. I'm just doing this because this is what I love to do. And I put my own money in at work here. Now you tell me. And the thing is you should be able to look at this chart and you should be able to tell me whether this is an asset that I should be interested in based on everything that I've taught you over forever. I mean, just look at this chart. This is a mutual fund that invests in the venture capital part of the tech space, or basically invest. You could argue to a certain degree that this thing is basically the exact same thing as this thing. It's basically the same thing, but Pine Tree is in Canada. Looking at this image, trade location, indicator confirmation, big fat bullish divergences. This is just in an RSI. Price structure, geez, it sure looks like W's to me. Higher lows and higher highs defines a bull market. It's the exact same logic, no difference whatsoever. I mean, all you Americans, you're down there buying Kathy, but this happens to be, isn't that interesting? Because this is a fund. It's interesting how it's labeled a stock here for Canada. But this is basically a fund that invests in the venture capital part of, and actually interesting enough, they're also down in the States. And one thing actually I really do like about this, and I bought this for my retirement account, is that like 86% of the fund's holdings are actually outside of Canada. And frankly, speaking as I was ranting on there, I don't think Canada is actually a good place for anybody to have any capital working right now. And the sad part about it is that the political situation is getting worse and worse and worse by the day. And you all know how much I absolutely detest centralized, central planning, communist, dictatorships, all that sort of exact opposite of capitalist free market societies. Canada is under this absolute insane political leader. And actually what's really cool, and I absolutely love this about this video that I told you about there a second ago, and you really have to watch it because it's such an eye-opener. But this gentleman, he even said that this political leader in my country, and I mean, you tell me, does this guy not look like a career mortgage broker? Like he runs an actual mortgage brokerage business. This is his career, not this guy. This guy's just the young upstart. But this guy, doesn't he look like the absolute typical mortgage broker? I mean, he actually looks, and it's so funny. He even said at one point in this interview, it was great. He's going, this leader in Canada, it's gotten so bad that people are walking outside and it's raining and they're going, oh, it's fucking, this is this Trudeau's guy's fault. It's raining. And I even, in my comment, I even said, you're so true. I go and stub my toe. Oh, God damn, that's just his fault. He said, that's how bad a political situation this Trudeau guy is in, that now people are blaming just everyday problems in their life. Got a flat tire. It's that fucking Trudeau's fault. I love it. It's so absolutely perfect. But anyway, and he even unequivocally, right at the end of the interview here, he even unequivocally said, you know, this young guy, which is so sad for this young guy because he just doesn't understand. But he even said to this young guy, look, if you got any money, get the fuck out of Canada now. Do not buy anything in this country. This is a disaster just waiting to happen. Again, like I said in the rant here, what's the cure for high prices? The high prices. And what's inevitably going to happen? Either one or two scenarios going to happen. Either the local politicians are so desperate to keep the local constituents voting for these people that have just driven my country into the ground, that they will hyperinflate the economy. So then that way, house prices never crash. But at the same time, too, loaf of bread goes from like $2, $3, $4 to $5, $10, $15, $20. Tank of gas goes from, you know, $10, $20 to $40, $50, $100, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And what the scenario there is, the Canadian currency collapses. House prices stay fine, but the currency collapses. And then that way, relatively speaking, because it just doesn't make sense, the economics of this country right now don't make sense. You know, like you could literally go down to like New York State. Now I know all of you are going to be like, oh yeah, but New York State. And right now I'm actually taking a real good look at like Southern Illinois. And even with all the horrible taxes that you think that you have to pay in the United States, they still don't equate to the tax burden in China. And why is it that the house price in New York State, in Illinois, why are these prices so low in comparison to exactly the same house in China? I mean, like literally, the Chinese house is twice the price. So either the price of the house falls, but if the price of the house falls, then the guy who's in charge of our country right now, there's no way in hell he could ever get reelected. And the political party that's in charge right now, they're going to be run out of office and they will not see office again for maybe 10, 20 years. So if they let the currency collapse by muscling the central bank, and you can already see it because the Chinese central bank has already acquiesced to the special interests and they're starting to cut interest rates. If that spread between the United States and Canadian interest rates gets too wide, then the currency is going to start to collapse because there's no incentive for international investors to own Canadian paper. They might as well just go buy US paper. And then that way, if the currency collapses in the international stage by let's say it falls like 30, 40, 50%, well, then that way the Chinese house price can stay at 400,000 or 500,000. The Southern Illinois, New York State house stays at like 200,000, 300,000 US dollars, and they're equal because of the exchange rate. So any way you shake it, being here in China, you're either going to get screwed because the currency is going to collapse, which will, of course, be hyperinflationary. That's the way the currency system works. any imported goods coming from overseas, if our currency collapses, those prices will go through the roof, a la inflation. Or China has to go through a massive repricing event. And the thing that really bothers me about what these idiot woke politicians have done to us is Canada doesn't really have an internal industrialized sort of industry complex. In fact, there used to be lots of industry in Canada, but the insane tax rates actually drove all the business away. So, like BC, for example, there used to be a bunch of corporate headquarters here, and in the 1980s, and literally through the absolutely insane tax policies of the late 80s, 1990s, early 2000s, all business just left. It just disappeared. And then we went down this terrible path of literally Canada is a real estate industry. That's the only thing that Canada does right now. But at the same time, too, the political leadership has gone and almost doubled the population in that time period. And this has been my question all along here. As long as interest rates were falling, then the people that lived here, they didn't need to work. They just continually just refinance their house and just keep taking equity out of the house, keep refinancing. As long as interest rates are falling and bond prices are rising, then it's just a win-win scenario. And of course, all the immigrants coming in here, they buy real estate. And as long as interest rates keep falling, which basically was the case since 1982, all the way up to 2021, 2022, a 40-year trend, as long as interest rates kept falling, bond prices keep going up, value of real estate can keep going up, then okay, fine. Then you can keep playing this funny real estate game. And you want to hinge your entire society, your entire economy on this. Okay, as long as interest rates keep falling and as long as bond prices keep going up, then just keep on keeping on. Well, as of course longtime site members know, and anybody that follows me, we all know that these things are cycles. They all move in a big circle, and sadly, we actually transitioning from 2020, through that Jupiter-Saturn cross and the Jupiter-Saturn Pluto conjunct. I mean, we're going through 6 different celestial events that all happen within this window. That hasn't happened in human history in like a million years. So each of these celestial events is basically like a big stopwatch in the sky, just saying, all right, we're going to start a whole new cycle. And there's one particular cycle, the money cycle, the great reset, strong times make for weak people, weak times make for strong people. You've heard ad nauseum all this talk. The simple fact of the matter is that we are transitioning now into a 40-year rising interest rate environment. And it's already happened. I mean, hell, just since 2021 to 2021, short-term interest rates have like literally gone up like what? I mean, what's the percentage increase when you go from 0 to like 5%? I mean, technically that's like infinity. But the point is that the entire Canadian economy, and this is exactly what happened in 2000, but the exact opposite. In 2000, there was one company in China, this idiot country. I mean, the people who run this country, they've got shit for brains. I mean, these people, it's shocking to see this happen cycle after cycle because I was there. And what shocks me is that nobody else talks about this stuff. Nobody. But I was there. I watched Alan Blinder, Princeton economics professor, publicly laugh at John Roth for selling his Nortel stock when Nortel Networks, one company, represented 35% of the entire Canadian stock market. This is lunacy. And now that was the dot-com boom. That was paper assets. And these stupid Canadians piled all of their net worth into one company. I mean, there's no logic to any of this. Anyway, The exact opposite end of the cycle, 20 years later, Jupiter Saturn cross, 17 and a half year cycles, Brian's fear greed cycles, baby boomers leaving the economy, millennials coming on, taking over the economy. Now this cycle is all about hard assets and things like the bonds hitting their long-term cycle pivots, and of course, the advent of current crypto as an alternative investment, which I hate to say it, but I actually think crypto is like the ultimate expression of the public losing all faith in their local governments and losing all faith in this fiat currency paper system. So it makes sense why crypto did as well as it has. What I do find interesting, though, is that once we've made that transition into 2020-21, I can really see that the sentiment in this whole space has changed dramatically, including things like, Fink now basically taking over the Bitcoin story, and it has now become securitized. And actually, it's cool to watch literally on an options expiry basis. You can literally see how the smart money completely hedges crypto and Bitcoin. So, the insane over the top price appreciations that we saw the last cycle heading into that commodity cycle peak, we just don't see that anymore. There is some fun, don't get me wrong. And I think there is money to be made. It's just you're going to have to be damn patient and damn disciplined through this kind of environment to make that kind of money. And ironically enough, in this downswing that we're seeing in the market just in the short term, I actually think there are some great opportunities. I showed you that shadow. But, interestingly enough, as a commodity proxy, fascinating that this gentleman just speaks about how the two countries you want to avoid like the absolute plague right now are China, Canada, which ironically enough, historically is a commodity country, and Australia, which also is a commodity country. These two countries, I actually think, got a little bit ahead of themselves. They started to actually believe in this MMT stuff and this whole sort of, money doesn't cost anything. And we can go print all the money we want and it won't make any difference at the end of the day. Oh boy, are these countries learning this lesson the hard way. I mean, I hate to say it, but I'd actually say Canada technically is bankrupt. There's a terrible thing to say. And the political leadership, you got to get them out of there because they're hell bent on this sort of MMT kind of Canada. It can build a EV battery manufacturing facility in one specific place in the country, and that will solve. I mean, keep in mind, this idiot has gone and added 21 million people to this population. And I keep asking myself, what are these people going to do for work? There's no industry here. This is the potion for civil unrest, to say the least. This could get absolutely horrific if we actually see a repeat, which should happen, where Canada has to go through its great financial crisis. And I think that that's what happens at the end of this decade. And everybody's talked about how the price inflation at the end of this decade is going to make what we just went through almost laughable. And I fear for what happens to a country like China. It'll be fascinating. It's going to be fascinating to see. But if you don't want to listen to the Beamish, and I can understand, I'm a bit of an oddball character. I mean, listen to this guy. Doesn't he look like sort of Mr. Industry guy? I mean, look, he's got like all the fixings of, well, I'm part of the system. And his number one advice to this young upstart real estate expert in Vancouver is stay the hell away from Canada. I mean, I thought it was just it's a fascinating piece. I'm spending too much time here on this, but gee whiz, it's absolutely remarkable what's happening to our country here. So, needless to say, I don't think it's in your best interest to. I mean, come and visit Canada. I suppose that we got pretty scenery and stuff, but this is probably a good analogy of it's a nice place to visit, but you probably don't want to live here. Wow, there sure is a resounding sales pitch for my country, eh? Wow. But this was a really, really good summary piece on why Canada is in such trouble. And this guy, I actually think he was pretty believable. And his comment about how Trudeau, everybody is now, they're blaming, the simplest things that are going wrong in your life. And when a politician gets to this stage, they're over, they're toast. There's no way in hell the guy could ever get reelected. And his thought is that sometime over the next probably 4 or 5 months, you're going to mysteriously hear that Mr. Trudeau is going to resign for one reason or another. He's going to pass the torch off, maybe probably to that idiot WEF puppet that he put in place for the finance minister of this country, and she's going to get absolutely destroyed in the next election. All right. Anyway, enough ranting. I'm sorry, everybody. I went off on that tangent. So the point of the matter here is consumers not feeling very good right now. I do like the way that the market is completely washed out. Like the altcoins, oh my goodness, they are just dying 1,000 deaths here. And interestingly enough, names that have just basically come right back, completely hit the reset button, that people were actually, this is a really good project back here, but when it got bid up to these levels, it just got stupid. So make damn sure to take some profits. I'm actually going back in and buying them. And as I said, even for my retirement account, I mean, this crazy mutual fund, this is insane. This was basically the commodities bull market. This was George Bush's. This is when Canada was actually doing really, really well. And you can see how high this silly mutual fund went. And it got absolutely decimated when basically the great financial crisis. And, I hate to say it, but the entire Canadian mining industry, everything about this country when it comes to capital has been absolutely destroyed since that great financial crisis. It just hasn't come back. And what's interesting is you can see where I started nibbling because this thing was just looking ridiculous. And I don't know, are there certain letters of the alphabet that are going to get Brian somewhat interested? And can you see, actually, this is, and actually, in fact, I think they rolled it back. So these old numbers are wrong. They all have to be doubled. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I think they rolled it back there. Yeah. So you can see I did buy this. So I have to adjust these numbers. These numbers aren't correct. But is there a letter of the alphabet? Yeah, we'll just take this off for the purposes of this conversation. But is there a letter of the alphabet that you can see here that might get that Beamish guy slightly interested? Down, up, down, hello. Did something happen here? And what I really like about this is that this mutual fund, it has to trade off of its net asset value. So hopefully you can see, I mean, really, if we zoom out over time, hopefully what you see is, gee whiz, this kind of looks like a big, like kind of head and shoulders, shoulder, head, shoulder, neckline, breakout. So actually I went and bought more of this. And this is in the Canadian venture cap, well, just venture cap space, tech space. So if we go to Pine Tree, and the good part about this is that because it's a fund, they have to every quarter, of course, report financials. And what's really interesting here is, their most latest quarterly report, if I'm not mistaken, it was this one. But their net asset value here, book value per share of the actual fund, it's justifying. And hopefully you can see, right, down $3 and up to $4, then back down to $3, then waffle, waffle, waffle. And hello, there's your breakout. The net asset value of the fund itself is breaking out through that $6 level. So this isn't anything to do with market manipulation, somebody bidding up the stock. This thing's just trading purely at net asset value. And when you see these long-term W's come in like that, that's a good sign. This also speaks to the greed cycle, because quite literally, this is, right? We said 2020, 2021, this is the Jupiter Saturn cross. This is where the whole world went absolutely stupid, right? And, I mean, I have those funny GIFs and images of, on the US dollar index, I say, you want to know how absolutely insane the world went through that Jupiter Saturn cross? And your job, of course, as market participants, if you fancy yourself a money manager and a trader and all that kind of nonsense talk, you have to understand that the market is nothing more than just a reflection of how society is feeling and what's going on in society. And what's fascinating, of course, is that whole pivot that we went through. It was all about, and do I have him here? Oh, I don't have him here anymore. Did I get rid of him? Maybe I didn't put the right time frame on here. That's too bad. Oh, well, everybody remembers shop teachers with ridiculous fake breasts. Male shop teachers with just absolutely insane. And interestingly enough, right, this was the Jupiter Saturn conjunct right there. And that was, insurrection and all that bullshit talk and stuff. And there's your bottom in the US dollar. It's funny, I could have sworn I had our picture of our big-breasted shop teacher on here. Anyway, just a really good analogy of how stupid these humans got through that whole event. I mean, we're going to look back like 50 years from now and we're just going to laugh. I mean, that's all you can do because it's just absolute insanity how we all acted through that nonsense. But anyway, I was kind of hoping I had that image, but it looks like I got rid of it. Isn't that weird? I had it on one of these charts. Actually, you know what? It might have been on this. Maybe it was on the bond market chart, but I don't. Anyway, I'm wasting time. Well, we'll circle back around to it another day. So point of the matter here is I actually really like investing in venture cap, high tech, high growth. If it's going to be something like my retirement account, I want to be investing in things like this mutual fund. And the good part about it, as I showed you, is that this isn't just price action. This is the actual net asset value of the fund breaking out. I think $6 there was actually a really important level for this fund to break out. Now, the interesting question will be, do we fail here and then have to come back down against bottom of value? And of course, I'll just go and buy more. And actually, what was really interesting was to explain some of the performance. And maybe I'll do a little bit more of a write-up because I really, really like this fund. I've been following them literally for the past 30, 40 years. So very, very long period of time. But what I really like about this fund, and I'll show it on the site, is they have two investments in, ironically enough, they're a venture cap part of the investment scheme, which means that they can only invest in companies from 100 million to $1 billion. That's venture cap these days. My goodness. So, and they said that two of their investments just reported huge beats in their revenue. And as a result, the net asset value of their portfolio has gone up as the stocks themselves have been massively upgraded by Wall Street. So in essence, you're just basically buying into the market. And I think growth, I'm very bullish of growth going forward. Okay, so I wanted to, well, it doesn't really matter whether you buy it or not. I couldn't really give a fuck whether you buy this or not. How's that for a shill, LG? I don't care. I'm telling you what I'm doing with my money. I went and bought this. So as a result, that's what I'm not going to buy something unless I'm bullish of it. And do I have any vested interest? Full disclosure. I don't have any vested interest in whether you buy this or not. I don't really care. How's that? All right, cool. All right, so if anything, you all got a beautiful rant there for about 45 minutes about how wonderful investing in my country is, and what is it that I'm doing with my investment dollars in my retirement account. I'm buying assets like this, which are a mutual fund in the venture cap industry. As for crypto and the cryptoverse, as the newsletter pointed out, wherever that is, I am in there actually buying some stuff. This is the futures panel. Let's see if I can scroll back to where's Solana. And I noticed that the Solana portfolio has come off quite a bit. So that's a really good anecdote of how underwater this whole market is. So, here is all of our FA names. So fantastic opportunity. I think if you're a little old lady, you should be in there nibbling on any of these kind of names that you're interested in, because I think a lot of them are coming into trade location. The only problem is some of them are still a bit expensive. So something like this render, for example, still think it's a bit of expensive. And now what's interesting about this kind of price chart is you can actually see how it's going to work its way down into reload zones. So I don't think there's any hurry on a name like this, but like little old ladies. And this is our FA portfolio. TRICTO has done his due diligence, and he thinks that there's some good money to be made in these kind of names going forward. So this hello, for example, we are definitely down at the bottom end of the range. So little old ladies, don't have a problem with you nibbling away on names like this. Is this technically a buy? Do we see the W's? Do we see the momentum divergences? No W's yet. Just even recently, this low is lower than this low. So there's no W's here. But if you are a little old lady, I have no problem with you coming away and nibbling away on names like this. So that's sort of the way that I'm looking at the market right now. What I'd also say too is, and usually a good tell, we circle back around, we look at sort of bigger crypto. Usually what happens is bigger names in indexes actually correct last. So actually seeing Bitcoin look as heavy as it is now, where's the best chart to show you? Actually, I think it is this chart. I mean, look at the momentum, right? This is a daily stamp chart. Oh, horrific momentum here. Horrific. And look at that. Willie is just now starting. Oh, no, we haven't gone stupid yet. So we're still not even stupidly oversold. Momentum looks horrible. And maybe we're starting to get maybe the smatterings of a bottom in MACD. That would be encouraging. It's trying to bottom, eh? That's not bad. But the volume pattern, sellers are in complete control here. If anything, it's kind of good to see that we have this M now in the red bars. And so now if we get a day lower than this bar in particular, that will actually mean that the bears are falling asleep. So that's a good sign. But no W's in the RSI. Willie's not even stupidly oversold yet. No W's there. And certainly no W's in OBV yet. So when we look at price itself, what I'm thinking here is, and this is basic. Well, the tweet that I put out today was actually a little bit of a higher time frame chart, but actually this is a good conversation because we had a conversation about this with a site member earlier this week about why I use the moving averages that I do. But in essence, you can see big fat M there. This is the daily price chart. Remember we said the momentum indicators look absolutely horrible. There's our sort of timing tool, moving average wise. One of the reasons why I like using this particular moving average combination, you can see, I mean, this thing worked really, really well here. So it crossed bullishly way over here. Big rally, crossed bearishly there. Little bit of a head fake, but then worked our way bearishly through this whole move. Then worked our way bullishly through this move. Then we've rolled back over bearishly, and this thing, I don't see any W's anywhere in sight here. So moving averages are still very comfortably bearish. And you saw the momentum indicators. There's no indication whatsoever out of any of them that we're bottomed. What I've just drawn here was just this most recent low back up to the most recent high, paints reload zones. So if I'm looking for a bottom to come in, it should come in somewhere if this range holds, somewhere in this window here, which makes sense. We'll probably see the market grind its way lower over the next couple of weeks. And then if I wanted to short, same sort of thing, recent low back up to the highs, there's your reload short zone right up there. So really, that's kind of where we are right now, is if we do get dead cat bounces up into this area that are off of V bottoms, then that to me represents a new shorting window. I got euchred out of some really good shorts in here because I was just too impatient. But nonetheless, it is what it is. Didn't lose any money, so I suppose that's a good sign. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have to come back down into this level. Now, the interesting thing is when you look at the weekly price chart, remember, this is the 200 period simple moving average on the daily price charts. Notice that 200 simple moving average lines up nicely with those lows. If we go back to the weekly price chart, nope, not that screen. So the chart that I included this week and what I tweeted out was basically a weekly price chart. And we haven't done the weekly chart in a while, so I thought, what the hell, I'd throw it on here. But notice how this weekly price chart, it lines up really nicely with that tail. This is the weekly chart now. There's the 200, this is a 30 period, a simple moving average off of the weekly chart, which lined up really nicely with, like I said, that daily price chart, which was over here. Nope. Sorry. I'm so bad at these darn chart jumpings. Here, you know what? Let's put away Mr. Pine Tree for now. And let's go back over here. Yeah, there. So daily price chart, 200 SMA against those tails, candle body lows for trade location, right? All that. Julian's favorite fib, right? We'll call this the tie shark setup. Mind you, this is an off market structure. So we just call this the tie level, I guess. But anyway, move down into this area looking for some sort of pivot off of this level here. And then as we said there a second ago, that notice that 200 SMA on the daily chart lines up really nicely with that weekly 30 SMA right there. What bothers me about this weekly price chart now is this is actually now a confirmed M. Remember, we M'd out here. Now we have another M that's come in here. This low right here is high, or excuse me, this high here is lower than this high here. So that is technically an M. And what you see now, which we have not seen over this entire period, is the market looks like it's actually trying to accept and actually close out below the 13 EMA on the weekly charts. And if that's the case, and that's what I wrote here in this week's summary, is if we actually close now below this and we tick one tick lower than this candle body low, or just this candle low, then my hunch is we're going to be stuck in a moving average sandwich where the 13 EMA now represents resistance and the 30 SMA on the weekly charts, which, as we said a second ago, is the 200 SMA on the daily charts, now represents support. And interesting, on the daily charts, you can see that that 30 SMA now is now going to be resistance, and the 200 SMA is now going to be support, or we're basically stuck in that moving average sandwich. That's what I think is going to happen here, folks. So with that said, the point that I was trying to make earlier was, of course, the altcoins are getting absolutely destroyed. But remember, that's what usually happens. And if you don't know that, you better write it down. Usually the small cap, the venture part of the market, it breaks, and it breaks ugly. Then ironically enough, as the correction works its way through, the very end of the correction is when you actually start to see the big names start to break. So my hunch is over the next couple weeks, and I've been telling you guys this for quite some time, that really I don't expect this market to bottom in earnest until we get on the other side of this July 4th holiday weekend. That's what usually happens. It's what's I mean, keep in mind, I've been watching this crypto space for 10 years, like literally every single second of every single day for 10 bloody years now. I mean, how many vacations? Even when I take vacations, I still do these daily updates and reports. I mean, there was one that I did when I was in Portugal, and it turns out everybody that was at the meetup watched me. And at the very end of it, they all got up and they stood and they clapped, which is so funny. That's buried somewhere on the site, but it was hilarious. When I was in El Salvador, I even did these reports and watched Bitcoin like a hawk every day. So I think I have enough mileage under my tires to be able to comfortably suggest what normally happens in this space. And the fact, of course, that we had all the Gucci sweater wearers and all these shills. And, you know, I hate to say it, but we had one TRI site OG who kind of disappointed me a little bit. He started to wrap his arms around the this time it's different talk and stuff. All of that those are the hallmarks of the top of the market. And in essence, exactly business as usual. Now, none of the Gucci sweater wearers are anywhere to be found. I don't hear anybody saying, well, this time it's different. And if anything, as I started off this broadcast with, the sentiment around the universe right now, I don't know whether it's specifically crypto or whether it's the entire junior market, is this is Wall Street's game. Peter Fink or Larry Fink or whatever the fuck that guy's name is. This is his market. This is you know, the 1%, and the public is just not even participating. And I can tell you, ironically enough, that's usually the makings of a market bottom. It might take weeks, it might take months, but if the public is crying and the public is sanguine, then I, as a market participant that's been at this game for 35 bloody years, I'm starting to get very interested. And sadly, when they aren't, and when the public is actually happy and they're euphoric, and of course, you'd be an idiot not to buy. And then all these people that have not in this space for very long, they all of a sudden start coming in. Don't you remember that last cycle? There was that Raoul Paul guy who, I think on balance, I think he's fairly articulate, but he was coming in when, you know, in the 2021 peak and saying you got to go all in on Ethereum at the top. That's the same thing. It's no different. And what happened to Ethereum following that? Boom, down she goes. So if anything, this worries me, the fact that the space got so euphorically bullish. And I put a tweet out the other day that, you know, especially considering that we're heading into this political season here, I mean, is anybody on Wall Street going to actually place some seriously big bets ahead of what's coming down the pike here in November? Is anybody going to do that? That's lunacy. Who's going to go and plunk down like $1 billion bet? And I don't mean like the Gucci sweater wearers and somebody over there is like, who is Gucci boy? So I can tell you haven't been in this space very long. But, you know, I put out a tweet the other day and I even said, you know, I don't know whether this is going to go over very well with the crypto space. But what I'm seeing is this was the bull market for crypto last cycle. And we went absolutely apeshit bullish straight up. And of course, at this point, everybody was rah, rah, bull. And ironically enough, what did Bitcoin actually have to do through this entire event? It actually had to come all the way back down to its 88.6. Some of the people here kind of were like, yeah, but that was the sickness and that's a black swan and that may not happen. Frankly speaking, that's not the point that I was trying to make out of all this. The point I was trying to make was, look how this market based and had an absolute insane face rip up. And then we had to spend like a year and a half correcting to finally get to the point where, you know, following this is where the new bull market started. And, you know, the Do Kwons and What's that guy who's in jail now? SBF or whatever the fuck his name was. He got his go through all of this. So I just wonder whether, maybe this space needs to go through that same sort of cleaning out period. Maybe we do go all the way down to 88.6. It wouldn't surprise me. There was a guy that I used to work with at the TRI site who actually bought that level. I was very proud of him for that event. I don't even really care what the circumstances were. This is just a beautiful technical level. Perfect Wyckoff check. This would be your Thai shark setup, regardless of the black swan events. I mean, technically speaking, that was an absolutely beautiful setup. Maybe a nuclear bomb goes off somewhere around the world. Who fucking knows? I'm not here to predict the future. All I'm saying is I look at this. This is the total market cap minus Bitcoin and minus Ethereum. Sure looks, I mean, does it not look like history is repeating itself? Even this rally, and then look at the insane rally that followed. I mean, doesn't this look awfully similar? I mean, it's shocking how similar it looks. And I think that where notice how this is the 200 SMA and 200 SMA. If anything, what we have to do is we have to get the 200 SMA back to the point where it's even trending down. And when you get these crossovers with the 200 SMA kind of flat and maybe even sloping down a little bit, that sets the stage for a really big rally. With the 200 SMA looking like this, just straight up, that's not the beginning of a move. That's the end. So you see how the 200 SMA was sloping down? We're getting that breakout. And then boom, there comes the rally. Beautiful W. Recapture the 200 SMA. And the rally itself is actually what causes the 200 SMA to actually start trending higher like that. So my hunch is that this 200 SMA is going to have to take some time just to sort of stabilize, maybe base out, maybe even start sloping down a little bit. And through that period, price of these altcoins just consolidates, goes back and forth, and then sets the base for the new bull market, which I don't think happens until well after the election. The good part about this, it's not all bad, folks, but the good part about, you can see the insane volatility through this entire event. And, like a window like this might actually represent an entire altcoin season rally. This window here came in November, December, and actually translated all the way through to like February. And then, of course, we had the sickness, which derailed everything. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, this window here might even be sort of our summer silly season rally, where, maybe Bitcoin has some sort of violent spike back up against the top end of its range. And like little names that I just purchased that I showed you, they start doing their 50% bounces and stuff like that. So I guess just the point here is, guy that's been playing this game for a very, very long period of time. The similarities that I see here, this is our current altcoin market, minus Bitcoin and Ethereum. This is Bitcoin over that last cycle. The similarities in this chart to me are shocking. And as I've been pointing out, tweet after tweet, message after message, I mean, my number one job, of course, is to try and prevent all of you from chasing these up markets where your Gucci boy there was shilling courses about how just buy Bitcoin, you'll get rich. My old students of mine, which really pissed me off, were coming in going, oh, this time it's different. Just buy Bitcoin here at 70,000. You'll get rich. And he made the same mistake the previous cycle. I don't understand why anybody listens to the guy anymore, but that's just the way it goes. I wouldn't be surprised if we're, number one, because we are coming into the end of this seasonal window, I could see like a violent move here. Don't be shocked if you do. I could very easily see Bitcoin itself have to play with its 30 SMA, like I told you, on these weekly charts, which is its 200 SMA. I think that the altcoins right now are playing with their 200 SMA. And what I do find interesting, I got euchred out of this position, but I still do have this Ethereum short trade idea working away. And basically, I would really prefer if I could just leave this damn thing alone. And I could very easily see, this is the daily chart. There's the 30 SMA. There's the 200 SMA. You can see where the profit objective on this trade is. It's just basically a trade right back down against these lows, reload long zones, 200 SMA tag. To me, this just looks business as usual. And if anything, I've got the stop at scratch when 50% of the anticipated move is traded to. My rule is I'm allowed to move my stop to scratch. And really, my job here is don't tinker with this trade. Don't do anything to this. Because 9 times out of 10, what ends up happening in this stupid business, kind of like what I showed you with the Ethereum, well, not really the same, but similar. I tinkered my way out of the Bitcoin trades. My job here is don't let my human behavior F up a pretty good trade idea. Just let it work. So my biggest job right now is just don't F this up. So there you go. Merry Christmas. I'm in there buying cheap names at the very bottom ends of the ranges. I bought some of that. Well, anyway, I'm running out of time here, so we'll just leave the market analysis at that. Now, I did see Chris told me that on the AMA document, I guess Grim's doing a pretty good job here this term, but didn't see any questions on the AMA document, so we won't have to circle back and address those. If we do see any, by all means, if I don't get to them here today and you had a question, maybe you put in later this afternoon, we can always circle back and address this in Monday's after party show, which is quite often what I do if I just rant on endlessly here on this Broiler Chicken Show. Can I get this thing to work? Oh, there's one. All right, so good thing I checked here. Let's jump into this. I've got basically about 40 minutes or so. And then we'll circle back around. We'll look at the YouTube channel, see if there's any questions that were posted there. And then we also have the Daily Beef Request Room. See if there's any questions in there. And then I'll head off to my #1 job, which of course is to try and make Lily have a half decent afternoon here. So let's jump into these questions and let's see what kind of damage we can do. So question here, right here, can you please explain what the island top candle pattern you've been mentioning lately is and how it's identified and used as a trading signal? Is this different from an empire pattern? Thanks, David. Are you actually, it's interesting because this is we spend in level 2 a good deal of time, in fact, an entire week's module on gaps and gap theory. So if you are in level 1, I can understand you're kind of like, what the hell is it you're always going on about island tops? And I mean, just to, and I think probably the best thing to do is when I was a commodities broker, we used to always give this out for free to anybody who asked. Let's see. Where's the best way I can do this? We have it embedded in the library. So I think it, generally speaking, of course, I have to find the right tab. It's not that one. Maybe it's this one. Nope. Yeah, one of these tabs, I got the website on it. Okay, so that is not that. It's not that. It must be this one. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So in the library, you can find this document if you are a site member. I can find the library link. Where is it? Library. There it is. David, I think that it behooves you to go and grab this. I think it's actually the most valuable document that I have ever seen produced on technical analysis and how to trade the market. And it was 100% free. It was actually originally produced by these people who don't even exist anymore. These people are long gone. I mean, this is an old document. I don't know whether it shows copyright. Oh, yeah, here you go. So I guess this most recent one, you can see how old this copy of this document was. This was 2011. Most of these people, like the Commodity Research Bureau, they're gone. In fact, it'd be interesting. Let's see what happens when you even click on CRB. Oh, you can see it's already redirecting. Oh, look at that. There's your CRB trader.com. So it just goes to show, ironically enough, commodity brokers actually come and go constantly. And hell, I started, the first job I had in the industry was with a company called Burns Fry. They then got bought out by another company called Nesbitt Thompson, and they became Nesbitt Burns. Then the banks, cocksuckers, forced their way back into the securities industry. Keep in mind, through the Great Depression, they actually made it illegal for money center banks to be part of the stock market. So did you know that if we actually lived in that world still, none of these banksters, we would not live. There would never have been a 2008 great financial crisis if the cocksucking bastard bankster crooks had just stayed the hell out of the stock market like they had actually created in the 1930s following the Great Depression, well, through the Great Depression. But the bastards worked their way back into the market. Turns out that Larry Fink, I actually learned just recently, was one of the creators of the mortgage-backed securities business, which of course was mortgage-backed, the securitization of your homes. And now we live in the hyperinflation of what these bastards have done to the housing market. And now, what a surprise, we have a housing crisis in Western civilization right now, where we would have never had a housing crisis if the goddamn cocksucking sons of bitch bankster crooks had been just kept out of the housing business. Whose fault is all of this? One institutional body and one institutional body only. And yet nobody in our society will stand up and have the balls to say it. Call a spade a spade. The whole reason why we're living in this hyperinflation world is because of the banks. It's just that simple. And nobody in our society will fess up to this very real reality. I don't get it. It's baffling. God, it makes you sick to your stomach how corrupt all of this is. Stunning. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah, this document, you want to learn how to trade the market. And really, my answer to you, David, is I'm not going to go through the Broiler Chicken Show here today and teach you how to trade island gaps. That's not the purpose of this. I'm going to just simply say this topic is covered in detail in our level 2 class. And well, I'll even say level 2 program. And specifically in the week's module, gaps and gap theory. So that's a sales pitch for, well, you want to learn how to do this in earnest and like a pro? Take the level 2 program. What I will say for you, David, to give you a bit of a bone, is, of course, we use that how to spot profitable trading signals document in detail, because, as I said, I think it's like one of the absolute best documents I've ever seen on how to actually trade the market. And in my 1980s website, why the fuck can't I do this? I hate when these stupid word processors act like this. If we actually look at that document, I guess in my 1980s website, I won't go into time show you it. You've all seen it before, but I actually wrote a complete sort of RSI, MACD, OBV, exponential moving averages, and I used this document to actually learn how to do the math behind it. This document by far is the best teaching tool I have ever seen on how to trade and invest and really learn technical analysis. And, specifically on gaps and gap theory, I've never seen anybody anywhere else on the internet actually teach any of this anywhere. So this document, where they actually go into detail of how you actually do gap theory, this is an invaluable part of the education program. And also, too, have you ever heard Brian talk about key reversals? And oh, by the way, there is the island gap concept. So it is part of the level 2 program. And as I said, this is one of the most valuable trading manuals that I have ever seen. And it's free. I mean, what's really cool about this tool is you want to actually build like an algo and actually learn how to actually build a relative strength index. This document actually goes through and it teaches you exactly how you actually build things like relative strength index. You want to teach yourself how to build a stochastic oscillator. This document will actually teach you specifically how to actually build a stochastic oscillator. I mean, as I said, it is the best teaching tool I have ever seen in the 35 years that I've been in the market. And this was given away as a marketing piece by the Commodity Research Bureau. They don't even exist anymore. So my suggestion to you, David, is grab this document. I think what I'll do, and Chris, maybe you can remind me, because I don't really like to teach these advanced concepts on these free broadcasts. I think I have to get a little bit more religious. I would highly encourage all of you to join the site. That's the whole point of this endeavor. And as I said, I don't actually even make any money off of the TRI website. Everything is done just to keep the development of the algorithms, the development of the team. We have marketing people on the team. We have Chris as show producers on the team. The data that we have to subscribe to costs money. And I would highly encourage all of you, please, if you do actually get value out of these free broadcasts, to seriously consider joining our site. I don't really shill the site that much. In fact, I even gave you free investment ideas here today, which I really shouldn't do. But I am going to refrain from going into specific details about teaching things, about specific concepts and stuff, and especially about something like island gaps, island tops, and island bottoms. Chris, if you could remind me, let's circle back around in the after party tomorrow, Monday, and give David a couple illustrations, examples of gap theory. So we'll even say here in Monday's after party, let's look at a few examples. Okay. And I think we'll probably leave it at that here today. Chris, you think we're up for that? All right, and even overnight, I can always go and find a few examples for you. But if anything, David, what you need to do, grab this document. You can either grab the link here, or you can grab it in the library, and it is, to all intents and purposes, it is one of our main textbooks that we use in the level 2 education program. So, okay, that's going to be my answer for this question. Let's circle around now and look at the daily brief request room, see if there's any sort of, Brian, would you look at this name for me and give me your 2 cents? Daily brief requests. All right. Okay, I think we looked at that UPath. So, all right, looks like we're up to speed there. A few cryptos I can throw my 2 cents at. I'll just give you my honest opinion. Buy, sell, or hedge. Don't really do too much hedging in crypto, though. So somebody, I think we've looked at these before, but what the hell? We'll look at them again for fun. I just need a page where I can look at this stuff. So where should we do this? I'm kind of thinking crypto charts. All right, let's go here. So let's go. First one was KSM, Kusama. Seem to remember I talked about this before, but that's not the right symbol. Let's try that again. All right. All right, so higher highs and higher lows defines a bull, lower highs and lower lows defines a bear. So clearly we are making lower highs and lower lows. Suppose you could argue, you can see, obviously we've had this conversation before. There was sort of your last buy signal. Nice W in price. It's actually a really nice W. Huge M, don't like the look of that. Now this high on a clothesline basis is slightly higher, so I suppose that's okay. But this does, if anything, I need for you and the public to get to the point where you all say this, or you at least hear this in your sleep. What are you supposed to think if you ever see the market smiling at you? I might even argue that if you ever see a smile within a smile, oh boy, that's even worse. You can see that we tried to bottom out here, but we never could get through that high. So yeah, there was kind of a W that tried to come in, but it never did come in. And then to add insult to injury, it almost looks like we have another M here. So boom, new smiles. Boosh, down we go. There's nothing really trade-wise here to do. I don't really have a problem, and you've all gotten to the point where you know what my message is. So if you were kind of like, well, Brian, and I do have a feeling that this thing has a much longer history. This is the one thing I really don't like about this space. You can clearly see that the public is being highly manipulated here. I definitely know for certain this thing has way more history than just that. But unfortunately, if you fancy yourself a technician, what are you supposed to do if you don't see that? This is there's Bitcoin versus Kusama. You already see there's a lower low there. So you can definitely see that there was more history. And this is just Binance. So unfortunately, when you have this kind of scenario, you have to kind of say, yeah, that was the previous low, but I'm from Missouri. I need to see some pretty sexy W's here to know that this is bottom. Then I'd also say too, let's just draw a really simple trend line. This is not a bull until you actually see the market W out on the other side of that trend line. Who knows how long this could take? This might take years. You might find that we have to go all the way into 2026. This could very easily be the case. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to get into the business of predicting the future, but you might find that that's actually the extent of the rally for our 2025. And then, maybe we top out, oh, Jesus, we have to do something like that. And we don't actually bottom on this stuff. Remember, 2028 supposed to be an absolute disaster. Maybe this thing doesn't actually start getting going until next cycle. I mean, obviously, you're all going, oh, I don't want to hear that. What are you talking about, you crazy ass motherfucker? I'm not really here to predict the future. All I'm just here to say is, a million years doing this silly game, this market is not a bull market until we see structure on the other side of this trend line. I don't know when that's going to happen. I suppose the good part about this is, and this is versus Tether, you could make the argument that just even this kind of name here, just a revisit of that trend line, and maybe all we do in this particular bull cycle is, maybe we put in some sort of bottom down here through this election cycle, and there's your rally, which represents threefold increase in the name. Maybe we come down here, put in some sort of W, and there's your rally. That could very easily be the case. If we're really lucky, right, maybe we break out and we do something like that. Could be. I definitely think that the end of this cycle, though, once we get to sort of fall of 2025, uh, early winter, new year 2026, all bets are off. So if this thing really is a bull, number one, you're going to want to see this trend line really be broken in earnest. If we do bottom out like this and we get that rally, and you know, Brian, he'll be buying here at 25 and of course selling half on a double at 50 to establish that risk-free trade. That's always just good business practice. And then if we do go ape shit crazy, well, then there's your absolutely insane Lambo conversation. But I'm not going to predict that that's going to happen. What I'm going to predict now is we're going to have a big battle at this trend line. So is there a quote unquote buy here on Kusama right now? No. You can see on a weekly basis, we actually trended lower here. And that makes sense because of this big ugly M top. Right. So we are trending down. And until we stop trending down, we're heading down. Don't fight it. And what I really need to see to get bullish is, gee whiz, I really need to see some sort of weekly W. Now, if you can find the data on this thing going all the way back to wherever the hell it started, and there was some sort of pretty bottom in here, then maybe we can start thinking about, okay, what would a bottom actually look like? My hunch is that we just don't have the data. Look at this one. I mean, you don't have any data on a name like that. So I think the public, unfortunately, here is going to be kind of set up for a trap. It would be nice to be able to get at least some data. All right, this is better. Wow. So now looking at Kusama on Kraken, well, at least now we can actually see a weekly W. And are we actually near the bottom here yet? Nope. We go back to regular, at least that'll make you feel a little bit better. This is why it's not a bad idea when you're looking at these Schultz coins to maybe look at this thing versus logarithmic. Give you a pretty good idea of how far these things have actually come. So if we look at the regular chart, okay, it does look like we're trying to get near some sort of bottom here. But sadly, you know, these numbers, you know, where did this thing originally bottom? I think you could make the argument, yeah, I mean, it's tough to see, but there's the bottom on this thing. What's fascinating too is look at this. And this is probably Julian's Thai shark setup. Yeah, look at that. 88.6 off the original market structure bottom. Maybe even go like that. Nice inside bar reversal. So there's a nice buy signal. So here now, I mean, I suppose, you know, hey, I'm a little old lady. I'm not going to really try and time the market. I like this name. I want to just nibble away in here. Just make damn sure not to put more than 5% of your stake into this thing. Kind of like that Pine Tree mutual fund that I showed you. You could be coming in here and nibbling away here. Don't break the 5% rule. I wouldn't even put 5% in. I maybe put like 1%, 1%, maybe 1%. You know, if you did go 1%, 1%, did you actually get a double off here? This was 20 bucks, worked its way up to $60. So if you did come in and buy here, you should have been able to get a double off and get that risk-free trade. If you didn't, well, you're still sitting there. And if you've hit that 5% maximum investment risk threshold, then you're just sitting there as a little old lady twiddling your thumbs. And I have a sneaky suspicion. I've said this before through these bear markets, you know, at the very onset, you know, a lot of people, I'm a little old lady, I'm no problem, I'll go and nibble away, no big deal. Then the market does something like this and they start getting bitching and complaining. And I start saying, well, you don't sound like a little old lady to me. Are you sure you're a little old lady? Little old lady just steps in there and buys. They're not really doing anything. They're just sitting there twiddling their thumbs, playing canasta out in the garden. You know how the story goes. If you're a trader, and all said, Call a spade a spade. If you're a trader and this M fired here, well, trader looks at this and says, you know what? Probably don't need to be in this thing. I'm just going to cool my jets. And I might even argue that the trader will be waiting for that trend line to be broken. How long does this take to happen? You know, you might find this is the election season in here. I could very easily see, right? The election doesn't happen until right here. And you remember when orange toupees were elected last go round, and I'm hearing a lot of people are like, that Fox article that I referred to earlier, people were saying, I absolutely hate the guy. I despise his attitude. He's a total dick, but I can't stand this Biden economy. Biden and his runaway socialism have absolutely killed my family. I have no choice but to vote for Trump. But the last time he was elected and it was official that he won, I remember the whole fucking market just limit up following that event. And I think that if he is elected, that's exactly what you're going to see happen again. Kind of like I told you, I'm invested in companies like that Pine Tree because they're putting in big ass fucking monthly W's. We showed you that ARC and Kathy Woods. This market is ripe for a bottom, but through this election window, I could very easily see maybe we have a counter trend rally through the summertime, and this is your summer rally in altcoins. I could easily see that. That wouldn't shock me. And actually, I guess the election isn't here. The election's here. So I mean, I don't know what's going to happen here. Maybe this might actually be completely erroneous. I could actually see, to be honest with you, I could see, altcoin enjoys a nice seasonal lift. Then we pull back into the election. And then if the election comes in and Trump is elected, then maybe we get something like that. And then, of course, I would start getting my trending signals that, hey, we're in this awesome crypto bull market on something like that. I could see that. That's not out of the question. Having said that, I can't make the argument that this is technically a bull market until, ironically enough, this bearish structure pattern is broken. This could take a while. Then we could see through our summer sort of silly season. I mean, I'm hoping, just like all of you, that we get a cute little W that maybe comes in off the daily charts down here. And we get some sort of seasonal rally through sort of July and August. That would be nice. That would be your trader's trade. And I just don't see it yet. Still, you just got to wait for it. It's going to take some time. All right, so that's Kusama. Oh boy, I get a feeling a lot of names that we look at are going to look exactly the same. EWT, this is these energy webs. I kind of like this story. Interesting how he does have a cute little double bottom working there. I would say just generally speaking though, this one actually doesn't look too bad. Might argue that this isn't really a rip-roaring bull market until we W out on the other side of this trend line. And, this is a really good analogy right here. Look at that. Bang. And I've just eyeballed that. Bang, bang. And look at that. Bang. This is exactly why you cannot take a trade. If it does something like that, you can't take that trade because you're going to get your head handed to you. And sadly, this is why I have to say this is not a bull until we actually see market structure on the other side of trend lines. This is literally the market speaking to us and telling us, I have accepted that we are no longer in this downtrend. And as it stands right now, this is, I have accepted that we are still in this downtrend. Get used to it. The good part about this market is we do have this bullish structure bottom, and the market has confirmed that bullish structure bottom, right? down, up, down, breakout. So it's there. You might have gone down, up, down, breakout, up, psych, noob stop. If you're a TRIer, you know that we call that the noob stop. And unfortunately, the noobs got stopped out. Good part about this is it stopped out the noobs and then it quickly went and reconfirmed this uptrend. So I would make the argument with regard to this energy webs that it actually does have a coiling market trending state here, which is good, right? You can clearly see there's a war going on here between the bulls and the bears. And what did we say we need to see to actually confirm that this is an outright bull? What we want to see is breakout above the trend line, bullish structure. On the other side of the trend line, I am now officially in a bull market. So I would say right now, this thing is, basically testing the bottom end of its range. It has put in bullish structure. And right now it's going through the process of trying to, there's a war going on here with this one. And I like that because this thing is basically, they're giving it away. It's at the very bottom of the range. Little old ladies, perfectly fine with you going and loading up on this thing. Don't break rule number 2 of Brian's 2 rules of investing, though. You know how all this goes. Is this trending higher? And so we can start trading things like trend continuation setups? No, it isn't. It's stuck in a range. But at the same time, too, you might actually find that on the lower time frames, maybe like a 4-hour basis, you might actually get a half decent trade setup come in here. You can see the trading range, reload zones, bottom end of the range, top end of the range. You can see how when the market comes down into this bottoming end of the range, it seems to like to turn. Can we get price action that looks sort of like this to set up the W's going forward? Oh, hello, look at what's going on. I wouldn't have a problem with the lower time frame trader saying, I'm going to buy that W. I'm going to look for 2 to 1. Oh, and what a surprise. On the 4-hour basis, the 2 to 1 is basically lining up with that 200 SMA. And, all our level 2ers, of course, who are now gap theory aficionados, well, you look at that chart and you should be able to tell me what is the statistical probability that the market is going to go and fill in this hole on the price chart right there. If you've taken the level 2 course, you know what the answer to that is. Doesn't happen today or tomorrow, but there's a pretty high damn statistical probability that the market fills that gap in. Also this one here too. That's a pretty big gap. Look how that's right into that moving average and 2 to 1 risk reward window. You want to get even more cheeky, and I'm a badass motherfucking trader. Look at me. Maybe what you say is, Brian, I'm going to totally try and sharpshoot this, and I'm going to try and sneak my way in off of reload zones off the lower time frames. And this is exactly what I talked about with regard to TRI's screener signaling system. How do you use these signals when they pop up? So right now, as you can see, we got a whole bunch of signals. You can take the higher time frame approach. This OxyPete is a really good example. Warren Buffett's buying, good trade location. I like it, just going by. Or you can drill down to lower time frames and really sharpshoot your way in here. And it's interesting that OxyPete has actually come off a chunk here, and it's actually doing the reload zone pullback that I said that if you wanted to be like a total sharpshooter trader, then you hunt the pullback. So there it is. We said that we got the bigger, higher time frame signal on this big ass W that came in, but maybe as a lower time frame trader, sharpshooter, well, you're just going to pull up your reload zone tool and you're going to say, I've got the daily charts now pointing higher. Now it's time for me to start sharpshooting and looking for turns in reload zones against the bottom ends of range off of lower time frame charts. So interesting. Chris, can you take just a quick snapshot of that, what I just said, and dovetail it with what the piece that we did the other day on this OxyPete? I don't know whether you, awesome. Like when I'm out with Liam, maybe just take a little piece of that, and we can make this an ongoing piece. You don't necessarily need to merge them right now, but if this thing does come down, and it would be so sick if that's the case. But my hunch is we're probably going to get something like this, and then the trade fires on something like that. That's a trader's trade right there. So anyway, going back to our conversation about that altcoin, I could very easily see, we're super interested in the higher time frame. Little old ladies, I don't have a problem you coming in and buying, but we're now hunting. And remember, we said that the market's in this wedge, and so it does look to us like we could basically ramp back and up and down and up and down here. And so now, just off of this lower time frame, how am I going to sneak in on a trade here? I mean, like we said, we've got the market structure. If you want to just trade that, okay, fine. I mean, I'm not going to break your arm or twist your arm or whatever. Lots of people make lots of money just buying W's. But like I said there just a moment ago, you know what? We're going to get even more fancy, and we're going to do a reload zone. And I'm just going to sit and wait patiently, and I'm going to try and hunt W in a reload zone. I'm talking like 100 miles an hour because there's so much to get in here. But maybe I get something that sets up like that. And if that's the case, and I use that same upside objective, that's a higher time frame moving average or the gap fills or whatever, but now I'm going to try and sneak my way off of that W. I'll continue to risk against these lows. So now I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lows to risk against, right? But because I was patient and disciplined, I waited for the reload zone. Now I'm looking at better part of a 5-to-1 risk reward. And of course, that's the way the traders make killer dough in this world. So that's your second name and how I would approach it. Hope you enjoyed that summary. Then and you know what? I tell you what, why don't we leave it at that? Because I'm running out of time here. I've got basically 5 minutes left, and I do know that there were a couple names that people were asking for me to look at on the YouTube show chat. And let's just go through that, and then I'll head off. And hopefully all of you will give me some best wishes for Lily and I on the road. And we all have a great Sunday afternoon. All right, so looking at your posts, smash the like button if you would. Always appreciate it. See somebody says, I absolutely love these shows, which is great. Cool. I hope you hit the like button and you ring the bell to be notified when the next show comes up and all that kind of fun talk. All right. I was asking what should we be doing when the public is not interested and the public's dying 1,000 deaths? That's when we start getting interested. And the easy way for you to remember that is you should be selling when they're yelling. Write this down if you've never heard this before. Did see there was a couple people watching the show that I don't think they've ever even seen me before. So make sure to write this down. There was one person in particular, but they're probably gone. Who is Gucci Boy? Well, this one's for you, Mr. Gucci Boy. When they are yelling like Gucci sweater wearers, like Da Vinci, doofus. I'll call him a doofus every time I think he's a doofus because, frankly speaking, that was terrible advice. Go all in at 70 G's. You're going to make a fortune. How you feeling now, Da Vinci? Tisk, tisk, tisk. Bad mistake, sir. So you should be selling when they are yelling. And then when they're crying, let's see how many of you, there's 45 people watching this video right now. When they are crying, what should you be doing? When they are yelling, you should be selling. When they are crying, you should be what? And if you've never heard this before, for God's sakes, this is the value that you get out of watching a guy like me. Because I'm actually going to teach you how to make money from trading. I'm not going to shill you into some stupid idiot investment. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, God. And I'm not even going to say it. You got to read what the heck these people just typed. All right. Good to see Jason. Actually, and Nure and Adam, you all had already answered this before. Blocks asks, could you look at ENDR? Hammer candle with strong volume on Friday. All right, let's see what the hell you got here. ENDR. Oh, there's my little silver name. Fuck, I love this stock. Yeah, I'd be careful here. I mean, perfect, beautiful chart. Love this. Keep in mind, there's not that many shares out on this thing, and it's a venture cap name. But I absolutely love this stock. And full disclosure, I went and bought more. I had said that there was a gap here that I was going to work bids at, and actually, there's a guide tomorrow that I'm going to be doing a public sort of. I'd almost consider it almost like a public service, but I do find it interesting that his audience is very typical of the public. But anyway, I'm going to be going on their show and having some fun talking with them tomorrow. So, be sure to look out for that. That's if he decides to stand me up again. I wasn't impressed with that, but oh well. So we might have a public offering on one of these sort of social media channels, influencers. Watch out for that. It might be fun. If you understand venture cap investment model, which of course is what I run at, and I was actually taught it by an old VSC floor broker. This thing has all the earmarks of one of these VCIM ideas. Very low share count. They rolled the stock back here. Options to directors. The directors are loaded up on this thing. So directors have high vested interest in actually causing this stock to perform. They've got a great property. I mean, it's something like 600,000 square kilometer property in a very historically prolific neighborhood of my local province, British Columbia, where a lot of mines have been made. And a gentleman who was a founder and a director of one of the largest gold companies in the world. He took a very substantial position in this company. And really, to all intents and purposes, I'm just riding his coattails. Having said that, anybody who's been playing the silver space over the years, if you understand how silver works, the period from, let's call it the middle of April through to the end of June is actually a terrible time to be investing in silver itself. So you can see there is the seasonal window. It actually closes. I don't know whether you can see this image or not, but hopefully you can see here. And this is brought to us by the good people at equityclock.com, who I think are just an absolutely excellent resource. This is one of the modules in our level 3 course, trading the market seasonally and using seasonality to frame your timing. But as you can see here, silver is from actually the end of February, I beg your pardon, right through to the end of June. This is an absolutely horrible time to be invested in the silver business. Now, we do head into this funny little window, and I think it's directly because of tax loss selling pressure from people like the Australians down under. They have their tax loss selling deadline here at the end of June. Keep in mind, actually, I don't know whether Australia still has 3-day settlement or not. But anyway, the point of the matter here is usually the end of June, especially in the mining space, very heavy market. So what I suggest to people is take advantage of that. And really, this is basically the beginning of July. And in a weird sort of way, this actually corresponds nicely with that seasonal bottom that we see in the shaltcoin market as well. But you can see, like crude oil, he usually likes to bottom around the end of June. You can see, interesting, the cattle market, the wheat market. You can see the silver market in particular, what we're talking about now, and also the copper market. Gold market usually likes to bottom a little bit later. But the point of the matter here is you can see seasonally, a lot of these commodity markets like to bottom here, the end of June, beginning of July. So with that said, actually seeing what I see happening on this EMDR right now, it makes perfect sense. And again, to the person who was asking about whether I'm shilling ideas or not, I couldn't give a rat's ass whether you buy this or not. I don't care. So who was that was asking me whether I was shilling? What time is it? Oh crap! I got to get out of here. All right. Anyway, the person who was kind of accusing me of shilling and stuff, you obviously don't know who I am. I don't give a shit whether you buy or sell any of the ideas that I give to you. But I'm just going to simply say, you all know me as a guy who likes to buy down markets and sell up markets. I'm an institutional type player. Now, just look at this chart. Does this thing have any room whatsoever? I'm going to take off the moving averages just so you can see the potential for this thing. Does this asset have any room at all to move up? Any room at all? There is the history of this asset since 2018. That's only 6 years. Is there any room at all for this thing to move higher? Hopefully the answer is pretty straightforward. And, as a contrarian, I want to force myself to come in and, there's a guy who founded one of the biggest gold companies in the world. And he went and put $1.5 million into his own money into this name down here. Do we want to just simply follow the smart money? That's what I'm doing here. And I bought a chunk of this. And I'm more than happy. I might add some more, but I've got 3 or 4 names all in this particular part of the world. This is nothing more than just an area play right now. That's what they call this. They haven't done any drilling. It's just purely they bought the property. They've got all the mining rights. Everything's ready to go. They've incentivized the insiders. Now what they need to do is get out there in the field and do some work. There are 2 names that happen to be in the exact same district. They call it the Golden Triangle, if you want to do a little bit of research on your own, that already have properties. And both of them, the magic number that I was taught years ago on finding good quality mines to invest in is the company, the property, it needs to have at least 3 grams per ton to justify things like open pit mines. Both of these names that I'm interested in, one's a junior, one's an intermediate. They're in the same neighborhood as this company. Both of them have 5 grams per ton proven results. They've already drilled the holes. The numbers have already been proven. So I've got 2 names. One intermediate is a fairly sizable company now. One that's an absolute junior, right on its knees. Both of them have proved the resource. And then I've got this guy as my area play. Now, what do you think? Do you think I have the silver, copper, gold market cornered here for British Columbia? And you tell me, when a chart that looks like this, is there any potential to make any money in a name like this? Even if they could even just start doing some drilling. And that this famous guy who's loaded up on this thing comes out and says, oh, by the way, I really like this company. If all we do is a 50% retracement of this range, that's all we're going to do. We're not going to new highs, no new deposit. We're just going to revisit this original market structure failure. This, my friends, that's 650% return from where we are now. And really, to all intents and purposes, $2. What we're really talking about is 10x. And we're not even asking this thing to revisit these kind of numbers. And I think that we're going to go back into a mining friendly environment. We got to get that idiot that's in control of my country the hell out of there. And I think that the guy is sitting in the wings waiting to take over his job. And I think the country basically is expecting him to become our next prime minister. He's very comfortable with becoming sort of business friendly again. Didn't we say something about gaps and how gaps like to be filled in? Now, if this thing goes in and fills the gap in, we're now talking 3,500% return. Is there any money to be made on names that look like this? I think the answer is pretty obvious. Okay, on that note, I'm going to hop. I'll circle back around. And if you asked your question, can you go into the daily brief request room and post your question in there? Or can you maybe DM Chris? I don't know. And give him your question. Sorry, Chris, to do that to you. Or can you go into the AMA document and can you post your question in there? And we'll finish off this Q&A session in the after party tomorrow. All right, I hope you guys all enjoyed, and girls and houseplants, I hope you all enjoyed this presentation here today. Hopefully I've given you some food for thought, and I haven't given you away all my secrets. If anything, you should be very grateful that there is some guy like me who would publicly come out and for free talk to you about this kind of stuff. Again, I don't care whether you buy or sell anything that I talk about here. I don't care. I have no vested interest one way or the other than the fact that I am a shareholder now and I am a coin holder in the names that I tell you that I did buy. And obviously, if you go in and buy, well, that's going to help my cause. But I can unequivocally tell you the reason why these names rally, it's going to have absolutely nothing to do with, my small audience participating in these names or not. So, okay. PMA for the win. Slow and steady wins a race. Hope you got some value out of that. See everybody on the site. I wouldn't expect a heck of a lot out of crypto and really the broader market for the next couple of weeks at least. But hey, I'm in there buying assets that they're just throwing away, just like we always do. Buying when they're crying, selling when they're yelling. Have yourselves a great day. Hugs and kisses. The only thing left for me to say to you good people is bye for now.